Writing is the communication of ideas, and just like all jobs, engineers are going to have to communicate their ideas at some point, whether it's for projects, whether it's for some design work, or whether it's just management.
One thing that I've seen when I'm glancing over some of my classmates' drafts is some students lack conciseness in their writing.
I think that at the college level, it's so important to have this basic understanding of the fundamentals of grammar. And I think a lot of times people don't realize this or don't know the importance, but just in my communication with students, verbal, whether it be written, anything, it's very clear whether or not they have a command of just the basics.
The holistic traditional approach that we see in the K-12 education may not work for engineering-based thinkers in that it focuses mainly on literature, which for the engineering thinker is not something that's particularly attractive.
I always, as a teacher, as a writing instructor, really was looking for an opportunity to figure out a way to teach my engineering students the fundamentals of writing at the sentence level. And I tried all sorts of things, and then it occurred to me that the common denominator was between writing and their other subjects was math. How would that work?
Well, the great thing about sentence algebra is that it uses a system, math, which engineering students are really comfortable with, to teach them something that they're not as comfortable with, like writing or grammar skills.
Sentence algebra at its core is comprised of 8 variables and 5 basic sentence equations. And these equations represent patterns in our everyday speech. And at the end of the day, it all boils back down to those 8 variables and those 5 equations. And they really allow for a lot of flexibility.
Puts those variables into sentence equations, which are analogous to math equations, and constructs meaning in those equations as number equations do in math.
I developed a system that uses math as a metaphor for teaching writing. It doesn't really design how sentences work naturally, doesn't really redesign grammar. It just simply superimposes equations on top of it so that it makes it accessible to engineers.
Engineers have a large background in math, so being taught with something that they have a large background in and that's so simple for them is a lot more comfortable than being taught in some other approach.
Motivation and confidence do have something to do with performance as a writer. The sentence algebra system really allows those two things to be boosted in engineering writers. It allows them to feel that writing is a part of what they do, that it has a math-based touchstone. It really invites them, coaxes them to assign a value of writing that's a little bit more important than they may have thought of writing in the past. There's 3 key levels to sentence algebra. So level 1 is using the system to write accurate and precise sentences. And the idea is that making sure engineering writers have a deep level functional understanding of sentences that goes between the initial cap and the period at the end, so that the sentences are utterly clear, utterly precise, utterly accurate. Level 2 really is taking a look at strings of equations underneath writing at the paragraph level. And at this point, sentence algebra allows the engineering writer to write sentences that connect together accurately. For example, let's say if there's a pronoun reference upstream, an equation level understanding allows the engineering writer to pick the right pronoun when that antecedent is referenced upstream in the next sentence that follows. Level 3 really involves algorithms, flowcharts more than it does the equations. So when engineers write documents, they have a lot of different qualities. One of them is most engineering documents tend to be heavily modularized, especially reports and proposals. There's different sections, each section has a purpose, oftentimes different sections address different audiences. When engineers write emails, usually the name of the game is to keep them short, to have the equivalent of about maybe 1 paragraph to at most a full page of text. Audiences want those emails to be front-loaded. They don't want them to read like a mystery novel. The ending has to come first, the bottom line. However, when people tend to communicate, the first iteration is a story. It comes out beginning, middle, and an end. The sentence algebra system and the algorithms allow engineers to ultimately write documents that are structurally arranged so that they fit the audience's needs and expectations.
As compared to the math that engineering and STEM students are used to on a daily basis, the math in algebraic sentences is very, very simple. It's math that we've been using since we were in junior high, and it's second nature now.
In the workforce, once the knowledge from sentence algebra is, I think, ingrained into an engineer's mind, I can see it being used a lot in troubleshooting. It's after a first draft, looking back at the sentences and seeing if the equations, I guess, work, so to speak.
Well, sentence algebra has made me more aware of my own writing skills, specifically in direct communication with people. And specifically over email, I'm more aware of what I want to say to people and how to say it.
I don't find that any of the systems that we've applied to writing have made them unnecessarily complicated. I think that it makes it more attractive and more usable for engineering students because you can always refer back to those flowcharts that we love so much and that we know how to read and we really understand.
Sentence algebra does not oppose the thinking of contemporary linguists. Really what it does is it acknowledges that people learn differently based on who they are and how they think. Everybody acquires a native understanding of grammar by participating in a discourse community. Sentence algebra acknowledges that that happens. So you can study grammar not at all and write grammatically at a certain level. Engineers don't have the opportunity to work as much with literature and to write as much as other students and other majors, so the level of mastery that they end up bottoming out at tends to be lower than, let's say, an English major. And we would like engineers, even though they're not an English major, to be writing at this level in the professional workforce. So the sentence level algebra system really is a way to give them some extra training in a way that's palatable to bring them up to a level of excellence that they're really wanting to exit the university with.